Hello everybody, my name is Tim, we are Ye Olde Gamers, and welcome
Thomas was alone.
to Thomas Was Alone.
Wow, a weird first thought to have.
Yeah, so this is spoiler warning again. Last week we looked at Mad Max and sort of the good and bad ways to end a story, you know, how Mad Max's ending could have been improved, because I had a lot of problems with Mad Max's ending, as you may have gleaned from that video. The game itself I love, but the story not so much. So today we're going to talk about another game I love, whose story I absolutely adored, and that is, of course, Mike Bittle's Thomas Was Alone.
1. The whole alone thing.
Ah,
2.
sorry, I love listening to Danny
Portals.
Wallace's voice.
They led somewhere.
So,
Yet to work out where.
the first
3.
thing that I noticed
Falling.
that
Thomas was
Thomas Was
absolutely
Alone does
fantastic at
brilliantly
falling. He was almost
is
as good at
tone.
falling as he was at observing.
It gives you a sort of a set tone in not only in Danny Wallace's voice, but in the things he's saying, the way he's saying them, and even in the little jumps they do, because they have that little squash and stretch, that very sort of cartoony little squash and stretch. Even though they're just little featureless rectangles, they still have that certain tone to them, and it's great. And it's sort of,
Okay, interesting.
you
Thomas could
get a
have pulled past
feel
this
for the
block.
game immediately. You get a feel for, okay, this is
What if there was some kind of inverted fall?
a certain sort of
Something
game. You know,
to
you've got the sort of the fun of Danny
Yeah.
Wallace and the things he's saying, but you've got the beauty of the
Worked.
light
Thomas had solved the
and the
great
sort of the
inverted
artsiness
fall
of it as
mystery.
well. And the tone is immediately set for you. That's one of the good things it does. As well as that, you know, you should be paying attention while I'm talking about all this to the words on the screen as well, because that's one of the things that it does very well is
Thomas noted
characterization
there was no real danger in missing it.
through
The
narration.
world didn't want him to fail here.
And it's sort of, it does a really good job
And it
of
seemed
letting
to
us know
Thomas that it
who
could let
Thomas
him down
is.
at any moment. Just wondered
We're
whether the
told about
portals were
Thomas
actually taking him anywhere. He felt like he was
through
making
the narration,
progress, but there wasn't
because
really
Thomas
any way to know.
himself is not a character who
He
can
seemed
sort
to
of
be moving
express himself.
predominantly up.
We see sort of little bits about Thomas
Something about the boiling, toxic, glowing water.
every
intimidated
single
Thomas.
level.
He didn't like it. He certainly didn't want to swim in it. He made
And, you know,
another
it's
mental note.
great
4. Water.
characterization,
To be avoided.
because you know, it tells us about these characters without explicitly just going, yes, these are the character traits. And that's what good narration should do. It should show, not tell. You know, it's showing, not telling, but with narration, which is
No amount
interesting.
of observation or obsessive note-taking could combat that.
And you know, they've integrated the story into the world as well. So as Thomas notes, you know, it's getting more complicated as it goes on, and it's staying one step ahead of his skills. And we know that that's because he is an AI, he's a computer program, because that's the story of this. I should talk about the story a bit, shouldn't I? So the story is about sort of the first sentient AIs and how they break free of their program and get into the outside world.
He could feel
That's the whole
getting
overarching
smarter.
story, and Thomas is one of the
It was
architects
mental
of this
list
escape.
consider. Over the
And
minutes
architect is a
and
very
seconds since his
important word,
spontaneous
because
generation,
that
he'd
is what he
become
becomes in a way.
skilled jumper. He was evolving. He just wished he had someone to share it with.
And you see, we're still unlocking little bits about Thomas as it goes on, which is absolutely fantastic. You know, this is narration done brilliantly, and story done absolutely fantastically. And as well as that, you know, the gameplay is simple, which is always good. It's good to keep gameplay simple sometimes. You know, you are a square just trying to get to the end of the level. That has been done so many times in Flash games, but they're often, they're often the super difficult, hardest challenge ever, lol, can you complete it, sort of things. And with this, it's much more focused on the story, but it still provides a somewhat challenging platforming experience. Here in this level, we're introduced to Chris, who cannot jump as high as Thomas. You know, look, he jumps that high and Thomas jumps that high. And so Chris has to use Thomas to actually get over to his little square. I like leaving Chris at last, because Chris deserves to go in, like... He's the hesitant, grumpy one, so he goes in last.
Chris had been doing fine. He wasn't the highest jumper, but he'd held his own. He'd even been graceful.
And again, you know, the amazing...
Actually, not technically grace.
The amazing narration, the
word, but,
characterization
you know,
through narration
was that
still
little runt
continues
leaping about like he
fantastically.
owned the place.
And we gain insight into Chris as well. You know, we've had Thomas, and we already know how Chris feels about Thomas, and now we know how Chris feels about himself as well. And it builds your world level by level by introducing these characters. You know, there is no outside world to speak of in this. We know there is one because we're getting snippets between sort of little game worlds. I hesitate to use the term game worlds because they're not exactly separate worlds, but every time they introduce a new character, you get into the little you get a little excerpt of an interview,
a glowy white thing,
and
Only
you know,
Chris
it just
could get to it, which of course made it
we
all
build
the
up
more
our
enticing.
picture of
What would it
the
do?
world
What new
Chris and
opportunities
Thomas
might
inhabit,
this
and the
switch
world
open up to him?
all the characters inhabit. And there are a lot of characters, and they're all very, very good characters. And I'm sure I won't get onto each of them in turn, I'm sure, but I will try and go through as many as possible and sort of skip ahead a few
Great,
times,
great. Another chance for Thomas to jump slightly higher than Chris. How fortunate.
just to
Seriously, this made the whole
get us there a
switch
bit
present
faster, I guess.
entirely worthwhile.
You know, I don't want to spend... I've already sort of played this all through today because I wanted to remind myself of the story, and it was just an absolutely fantastic
this
sort of
good?
playthrough. It
Because
did highlight
on
a couple of
surface,
problems for me,
I did not
actually.
see
Alright, so this is another character that we're introduced to here.
John knew.
John.
He knew
I
that
like
this
John.
was his chance.
I like them all.
A moment to shine. This was game day.
Again, just perfect characterization. Oh, wrong one. That one goes on top. And then you move like that. And then we go back to John. And boom. And each
John
character has this
decided to press the
different
switch to
feel
let
for it
little
as well.
dots catch up with him.
See, because John
cared
does
for his
care.
neighbours.
John cares.
You could
But
tell from the sympathetic expression practiced in the mirror all these
oh, John. Don't believe it for a second. I'm sorry, I'm just enjoying the music at the moment. Such a beautiful soundtrack as well. Everything about it is designed to sort of fill you with wonder and to make you want to know more, to carry on, and to sort of explore these characters and these places. You know, it's designed to feel very sort of, in its own way, very small and very contained because of the borders of the levels and the
John
worlds
was
themselves.
happy to keep helping. He felt it was important to his image that he was seen to help the little guys.
But you know, at the same time, it's this very epic journey. Yeah, we're not just sort of wandering off and having a sort of grand day out. This is something big that's happening, and you can sort of feel it through the tone that this sets up. You know, a lot of it, as I say, is about tone. This game just gets tone so right. It knows the sort of tone that it's aiming for, and the sort of character it wants to bring. And it does that so well. Oh, That was bizarre. We just got a thing, somehow. Don't know how. But we got it. So, you know, that's something. Alright, so here is where we introduce Claire, I believe. I like Claire. I like them all. Okay, let's just stick with that.
So,
You know I like
this
them all.
was how Claire would
But
die.
Claire is very...
She knew it would
It's a
happen
lot of
eventually.
fun. Claire's a lot of fun.
She was rubbish at jumping, and she moved slowly. She felt a little like her continued existence was breaking some kind of natural order. The crumbling pillar was a dramatic death, she supposed.
She likes the drama.
What? Claire couldn't shake the feeling that she was not, in fact, dead. It was at that moment that Claire realised she had superpowers.
And there you go, that's a little insight into
She'd need a
Claire.
cape. There was no getting around that. You couldn't be a superhero without a cape. Claire didn't want confusion. If you saw a cape, that made matters clear. You knew what you were dealing with. Claire was all about communication. And, you know, floating in water, which was her superpower.
Boom. Alright, we'll do this level and then we'll skip ahead a little bit.
Right. Fear not, my good friends, for I am Claire, and
This is
I
why we
will
like
save
Claire.
you.
So you can
Claire
see
needed to come up with a superhero name as soon as
immediately
possible.
what
Claire
Claire's all
rubbish.
about. You know, she's all about that superhero business and saving people. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. And it tells you so much about her personality without just explicitly saying, yeah, these are her traits. And that's what Thomas Was Alone is so good at. But anyway, we are going to jump ahead to
Claire
a couple more
arrived
characters.
just in time, which was, of course,
And
the perfect
then
moment for superheroes to
I
arrive.
will rejoin the story. Alright, so this is where we meet Laura, I believe. And we'll look into her character in the first couple of levels, and then we will see how she interacts with the other characters as well, because that's just as important, is character interactions, not just
Laura was pleased this one
who
was
the
behind
characters
the
are.
wall.
Alright, this is also where we're introduced to the villains
Laura
that are
didn't have time to worry about
the ominous pixel clouds.
There in a way that she
Oh,
kind of,
Chris, you're a dork.
well,
So we can get
liked.
Laura in there, but how do we get Chris up there? Because he can't jump up there now. That's Laura's power. Laura gives you a whole different power, which is fantastic.
Then they disappeared
Oh.
when her back was turned.
See, we get an insight into Laura's character right there. And again, you know, they don't just outright state abandonment and shoes, although they could do.
Only the ominous pixel cloud ever remained, looking a little bigger and a little less hungry.
You know, they
with
give
every
us
disappearing friend.
these beautiful artistic descriptions, and narration just works so well in this game. You know, it's not just there for flavour. It's not there like all
With
of
every
the
bounce, Laura found
sort of
herself less and less irritated by Chris.
collectible
She started to miss him
recordings
when he
you can
wasn't there.
get in a lot of AAA games, but it is there to serve some sort of purpose, and that is to introduce characters in the world and to keep that world going, to tell the story of the world, which is hugely important, and they do it absolutely brilliantly, as you can see, because I'm just raving about it. They do a great job of making you actually care about the characters. And they do that by giving them actual character, which Mad Max didn't do.
He wasn't saying very much.
You know, that's my problem with Mad Max, is that it doesn't characterize half the characters, and it still expects you to sort of care about them. and it doesn't give you sort of enough of a reason to. Whereas this, you know, I care about all these characters because I know who they are. I know people like them. I am some of them. And that's the beautiful thing about it. Is that you've got all these characters and you know who they are.
Chris was in love. She was perfect.
Oh, Chris.
He had to tell her so.
Chris. Chris, you are such a dork.
At some point, he would definitely tell her.
Yeah, see, I'm Chris. I'm just
Probably
Chris.
best to wait for a moment. The large.
Can we just talk about the discordant music as well when Laura's around? I mean, again, it's all about tone. They give you a much more... Look at the background colour for a start. The background colour changes, I think, between each set of levels. And in this one, it's gone this sort of sickly green, which mingles with the water a little bit. And you've got the ominous pixel cloud that hangs around. And the music is very discordant. It's all about unnerving you, which is fantastic. Again, this is just a masterpiece, an exercise in tone and character and how you mix the two, and it's fantastically done. Right, so we are on to James, I believe. The game will tell us in a moment, I'm sure. This is where my computer gets very choppy because rain effect. We got James, who is very much a sort of inverse Thomas. In actually a lot of ways, thinking about it, in his character as well, where Thomas is sort of confident and outgoing, but lonely. James has always sort of tried to make friends, but has never been able to. At the same time, in Danny Wallace's reading, you can hear there's a lot of defiance. He's a bit of a loner because no one likes him because he goes upside down.
Liked being alone. Hey Jimmy, where are you going? Up?
Oh, poor James. I identify with James. A little bit upside down. Oh, fantastic. This is Sam and Joe. Okay. So these two are Sam and Joe.
They'd settled here. They'd not seen another AI for many cycles, and she liked it that way.
I'm not sure which one's which, actually, right now, thinking about it.
Sam leap into the shifter with fear.
This one's Sam. And as you can see, these levels are just introducing the mechanics of the shifters, those big squarey bits. And they are, well, they are what the other shapes could do. So, a bit of story here. Thomas has glimpsed the internet for 12 seconds. He has decided that they are all artificial intelligences, and oh, blimey. They don't want the humans. He doesn't want the humans controlling their world anymore. He wants them to be sort of real. I can't do this with 20 frames a second.
With fear.
Okay, so these are shifters. They're things that have come about because Thomas and the other original 5 have leapt into the system and actually changed the system so that they can control it. And they've created these shifters to allow the other AI to give them a chance to escape. And that is the plot of sort of the final act, I suppose. And the final act is the first time we really see any sort of villain. And that villain is Grey, who we'll come to imminently. Ah, here he is, right now. This is an interesting one, because this is the only level where gravity is inverted for the entire thing.
Work it out. Why was the world letting him do this? It was dumb. It was awesome, obviously, but why? They seemed to be leading him up.
I can't...
And to the right.
I can't jump. Why can't I jump? Oh, it's because I'm upside down, duh. Yeah, Grey's upside down for that entire level, and I don't know why. Don't know why it lets you do that for that one level and doesn't just change you green. We'll see later that green shifters do
wished
allow you
Sam
to do
would
what James
stop
could do.
some
This
time. She'd not heard the order to retreat.
is
She was
one of
shocked
the
by
most
the appearance of
important.
the four aberrations below.
This is one of the worst
The
levels,
old
I
one
think.
seemed to be leading the liar to an outcropping. It was within her
All right,
reach.
so a
She
bit of
could remove
backstory.
them both.
This guy
The
is
couple
the
could
villain.
wait.
He
They
is
weren't
trying to
going
escape,
anywhere.
and he is willing to sacrifice the others to do it. These two, Joe and Sam, husband and wife, wife and husband, and they are just trying to escape. This one, Paul, the prophet, and he is sort of integral to the story in many ways. He is integral to the story. He sacrifices himself to let these two live, is what happens. And we are going to see that. But I don't like this level because it is full of backtracking. If you make one mistake, you've got to move everyone back to the start, and it's a lot of sort of what feels like busy work. That means that we've got to do this like this. Okay, so can you get... fine. All of you come back. Christ. See? Right, you do it wrong once, and you got to backtrack the entire level, which may not seem like much, but when movement is as slow as it is, this becomes a very problematic level, and it becomes a lot more sort of hassle than story, which kind of sucks. Because it's a good story, it's a great story, as I keep saying. The only problem is... 3, there we are. This level feels a lot like busy work, because you got to do this. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 5 times? 6? 5 or 6 times. And that just feels a lot like... You know, we needed something to pad this out. And it's like, you kind of didn't, because it was a beautiful story. It's not even padding, though, is it? It's just... Right, hold on, because I can't get her up there without him. And now Paul's in the bloody way. See, and everyone gets in everyone's way. Collision detection is like... Well, it's there. That's the problem, somehow. You know, this is my problem, is that sort of everyone's getting in everyone's way, and it's a bit awkward to move around. And so when you're trying to sort of do this 5, 6 times, and you got to remember the buttons for each one as well to switch between them. It's just sort of... I can't do that, because she's got to come up again. And it's busy work. And it feels a bit sort of tedious when I should be caring about the story. And instead I've sort of got to hassle about how to get people around. I think that's the only thing I'd change, though, is I'd change this level so that it wasn't so necessarily busy work. I'd make those steps a little smaller so that you could just get Paul up there without any problems. Because now I need to get Gray all the way back here again. You can just jump up there because you've got your double jump, that's fine. That's why I give her the double jump at the start, just so I can get her all the way up there with no problems. But then Gray has got to come back because I need him to get Paul into his place. And that's the thing, you got to pick, not Paul, Sam. And that's the thing, you either got to pick sort of Gray or Paul to get Sam into his place. And if you pick Paul rather, that is a whole load more busy work. Because, well, you can't pick Paul, because he's got to get back up here afterwards. The way I did it first time was with, I gave Paul the double jump, but you can't do that, because Paul's got to be there to let Gray over the top. And sort of, you know, everyone's very specifically colour-coded once again, except for Joe. Ooh, blimey. Oh no, it's fine, because he can survive in water, can't he? She's the one I gotta worry about. Yeah, everyone is very specifically colour-coded in this level, except for Joe, who, I suppose you could say, you know, okay, you swim now, but with the double jump, it's just so much more sort of efficient to get her up here. And so I go for that, and then it's just, boom, done. That's a lot easier, but you see I made a mistake and it took me twice as long as it should have done. That's my problem with it. And the ending's totally beautiful, all that aside. But we're not going there. I don't want to spoil the whole story for you. I think you should get the game. It's an absolutely fantastic game. But it's a great story, and that's what we're discussing today. And as a story, it's fantastic because it draws you in with these compelling characters that it characterizes through narration, and it gives you a mood, it sets the mood through the tone of not only the music but the coloring and the color and the lighting and the shadow work, and it just gives you a feeling. And then you get to this level and this
Joe
starts
and
happening.
Sam ran. They had no idea where these final portals would lead, but it had to be better than this.
And you know, look, you can see things are starting to fall apart. This is sort of, you know, we've had the levels been all black before, and now we're up to this bit, and everything has gone sort of cracked with white, and it's all looking sort of broken and different. And all of a sudden, you know, we have almost a new world on our hands. And yeah, this is where we sort of end it here. Okay, I'll get to the ending. Because I don't think it's the real ending, and you guys need to see it. And there's still Benjamin's fight, so, you know, I'll keep that a secret till I play that. Down you go. Down you go. Oh, is that that's a boop. And then they go flying. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And it's just a wonderful ending, because they just end up on the wrong sides, and you got to swap them around. There we go. Okay. So you do that, and they are the first AI to truly escape their world. And that's the ending of Thomas Was Alone. It's all about sort of AI, artificial intelligence, gaining sentience. And they tell it in such a way as it draws you in with the character, and it sets the tone throughout, and it makes you feel tense when it needs you to feel tense through the music, through the lighting. The ominous pixel clouds are fantastically sort of rendered, and they look very menacing for something that is just a bunch of pixels. And every character has that feeling of character. You couldn't see it with the last few because I skipped over a lot, and we missed one character entirely because I felt she wasn't so important to the story. She does have her own story. She is, again, in Benjamin's flight, so we will take a look at that at some point. But that is the story to Thomas Was Alone. And this has been Spoiler Warning once again. I hope you enjoyed it. There will be another article accompanying this one. I did an article accompanying Mad Max as well. It was in the link in the description below. But anyway, this has been Thomas Was Alone. My name is Tim, and this was Spoiler Warning. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.